Hey, everybody. We're back for episode 4. And today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, guilty pleasures.
Ooh, it's gonna be
It's
spicy.
a little bit spicy. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are
Yeah.
you?
Good. Yeah. I feel like it's just been a busy week, busy day, but I'm enjoying myself, I think. I'm trying to find spots to stop and relax and, smell the roses or whatever they say.
Do you actually do that? Like, if I accidentally caught you around town, like, are you just like, oh yeah, oh yeah?
Honestly, if I smell flowers and I'm walking past them, I will literally stop and like breathe deeper. I really love the
Oh.
smell of flowers. I know maybe it's a little bit silly, but
No, not at all. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I was more like being facetious, but then you had to go and make it like a sweet, genuine little thing. So thanks a lot.
That's for real. I really do.
I know you do. I know. This is the problem is you're like, no. Here's a nice little, moment of
It's a
sweetness.
simple pleasure.
It is a simple pleasure. It's not a guilty pleasure.
It's not. It's not a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
But that's what we get to talk about today. Some guilty pleasures.
That's right.
Yes.
Right. Why?
Yes.
Yeah. And so just to like let our listeners know, like we have a whole bunch of topics that we are wanting to do, or at least, maybe brainstorm on. And so it was Jason's week to pick it. And I'm curious, Jason, why did you want to pick guilty pleasures as the topic?
Oh, well, I think you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a hedonist at heart. I really do like sensual things and delicious things and just visually interesting things. Like I really feel like I experience them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, on a level that maybe some people don't.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of looking through our list, and I'm like, yeah, guilty pleasures actually sounds, I don't know, kind of fun, kind of interesting, and like you said, a little spicy. Which, also one of my favorite things.
Definitely one of mine.
Yeah.
And well, even like just the word pleasure is like it's a pleasant word. Don't you
to
think?
say like in your mouth?
Yeah. I agree.
Like
it's just pleasure.
Yeah, it's
pleasure.
Got I totally agree.
This is a game of our ASMR creeper section.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
no, that's really funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I figured why not? It's super fun. It's a fun sort of maybe there's some psychology in there, some mental health stuff in there, but also like it's just a fun topic to talk about. So let's dive in a little bit. So
sounds great.
What do you think of how do you talk about if somebody says this is a guilty pleasure of mine? Like what's the first sort of thing that you think or feel when somebody says that to you?
Me personally, I get excited. Like I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this. Like, because I love things that people feel like they're supposed to, I don't know, keep undercover, or like, I mean, I think that also speaks to, like why I got into the field of counseling is because I like knowing stuff. I'm a little nosy. And so I feel like guilty pleasures are like an extension of a person in a way that they may not traditionally allow themselves to be seen. And so if they decide to show that, or if you like uncover that about them, it's almost like you're opening a door to like a closet you're not supposed to go into, and it's like, oh, look what's in here. And
I like that. Something secret or something more private, or
yes
Yeah, just like that person,
it's a different
but
level of access
on a different level. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Yeah,
yeah
that's fun. You're right. I think of it that same way too. It's maybe like a little peek. Like I'm not going to trust everybody with my guilty pleasure, so I'm not going to tell everybody about the things that I enjoy that maybe I shouldn't enjoy, or
sure
maybe there's a little bit of stigma attached or something along those lines, right? But I don't walk around and just tell Joe Blow on the street like, "Hey, I'm a
right
little bit of a hedonist." Like he doesn't want to know that.
and honestly you don't want to tell Joe Blow you want
Right.
to tell him to
Yeah.
go change his name.
That was a terrible, terrible dad joke. Just because you're 40 now,
joke.
this is a terrible.
I am 27. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's right.
I am
Sorry.
a burgeoning Gen Z. No cap.
Yeah. So these are things that we enjoy, but maybe we feel a little bit ashamed of. Right? Was that a good way to kind of sum up a guilty pleasure?
So yeah, that was interesting. As we were talking about doing this topic, and we were doing our little research on it. I think what I realize, I feel like most guilty pleasures, it's more about embarrassment. Maybe like I think there are some serious ones where guilt is at play, but I think like for me, I don't feel guilty about my guilty pleasures, but like there is a part of me that starts to blush if it's something that I'm like, oh gosh, if someone hears that and they're like a person I can't get a good read on, then I am gonna be like, oh, I feel like a little cringe about that.
Like
And
you're exposing yourself in some way.
yeah, and that maybe I'll get ridiculed for it, as opposed to like, oh, I feel so bad for having this thing that I like.
Yeah.
But there are definitely, I think, ones that fall into that.
Sure.
And I think that varies person to person. So maybe that's also just like my relationship to guilty pleasures as opposed to what other people's are.
No, it's a great way to talk about it. Like a lot of times with my clients in sessions, I will talk about the different feelings or emotions that we have and the information that's attached to them. Right. And so guilt, I typically will talk about as guilt is useful. Doesn't always feel good, but guilt is useful in that it tells us that maybe we're doing something bad, or maybe we're letting ourselves down, right? Or hurting someone, or not acting up to our own standards. And you're right. Like these things that we call guilty pleasures, they're not always that emotion isn't necessarily appropriate to describe it that way, but they are maybe a little bit embarrassing, or a little bit we feel a little bit exposed, or a little bit vulnerable, maybe even to bring one of our favorite words back in.
Yes.
So yeah, that's maybe a good way to talk about that, to define that. So if you don't mind sharing, what would you like to offer up as a guilty pleasure of yours?
So I was thinking about this, and I thought maybe I should start from like one of the first ones that I can remember as a child.
Yeah, nice.
And then maybe move to current, because I think the context of realizing something isn't looked upon as cool can sometimes make it as a guilty pleasure. And so for me, growing up, I think it was just a thing in the 80s and 90s. Soap operas were a big thing. And so I grew up with that because of my mom watching it, my aunt watched it, babysitters watched it. And so then in the summer,
General Hospital, Dallas, like what?
I grew up an NBC soap opera guy.
Okay.
Days of Our Lives, Another World, those were my jam. And
daytime television, right? Yeah.
Yes. And then when I got into my teen years, because I didn't want to go, because SoapNet was a thing. That was a channel, y'all, and it was great. Is that the ABC soaps were on there. So then you could watch them at night. And that was a big deal because that was before like DVRs were mainstream. So then, I in high school, like got into All My Children and like watched that for like a decade. And there's something really comforting, but also super cheesy about a lot of soaps. But I think though, when I look back though, and also what I think the internet has done for guilty pleasures is that you end up hearing, oh wait, there's a lot of people that had that experience, and it really wasn't as rare. And then you have to realize, well, yeah, these shows are on the air, and they have to have at least enough people to watch these shows to keep them going for the most part. So I think it's one of those things where I wish at the time I didn't feel as like, oh God, I don't want anybody to hear that. But yeah, like soap operas.
I do feel like I'm getting a little bit of a window into your soul hearing about this.
I don't know what that says, but
I mean, I know you love television. I know you have like your, I mean, you're actually, your tastes range pretty widely in terms of media. They really do in terms of media consumption. But knowing that this is like some of the origin that they came from as daytime television, I'm like, that tracks in some kind of way. I'm not sure how, but it tracks.
I feel a little targeted.
Just seen. You just feel
targeted. No, I mean, I also what I like about it is the storytelling of it all. Is even if it's ridiculous, you are getting to see characters 5 days a week, and you get to like know these relationships, and there's all these things, and there's arcs, and so as much as it's silly, like it also showed me a lot about like how, like, for example, when a character would get killed off or an actor would exit the show and it'd be this big like, oh no, but then when they get brought back, it was like the most exhilarating feeling because you're like, oh, that one actor who I loved like is finally coming back. And it's just, I don't know, it was always exciting. And so I feel like other shows though now have like utilized a lot of the things that come with that. Anyway, this isn't about soap operas. I need to move on.
I have a whole list on my notes over here about soap. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's awesome. No, I like that. It's really kind of cool. I was thinking too, as you were talking, like as a kid, like if I go back to a kid, like two things came to mind. One was just like running around in our underwear. Like it was, I mean, it was 3 boys in the house. And so we didn't really care about getting dressed or whatever. And so like literally Saturday morning, like it was basically underwear day. Right. And that was the best. That was the most comfortable. And it was a simple thing. And maybe it, I don't know if we call it guilty, but whatever. Like if there was company coming over, then we had to put on pants on or stuff like that. Right. So, but lounging underwear, but also like licking the spoon, like or the bowl, the cookie batter bowl. It was something that we weren't supposed to do because there's, whatever raw eggs in there or something. Thanks, Mom. But then I would be like, right, stick my finger in, grab a bite, like, and I would do it anyway. So I wasn't supposed to, but I did anyway. So see, look, my early hedonistic tendencies, there you go, right there.
You were just such a daredevil.
I'm 9 years old and but they're sensual pleasures. That's what I mean, right? Both, that's like, anyway, I digress.
It's a feeling of freedom and it's a feeling of like not being like, like you're kind of like where the wild things are, like in your home,
I'm taking pleasure in something that I'm maybe not supposed to, but it's harmless at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right, well, I thought it'd be useful to maybe jump into just a little bit of history behind this, just to kind of get a little bit of background. So New York Times says that some of this origin of this word, this term, goes as far back as like the 1700s, which is weird. Wow. But the term guilty pleasure, so this particular piece says the term guilty pleasure originated in the 1860s and initially referred to a brothel. Right? Yeah.
A little salacious.
So that makes sense to me that would be a quote unquote guilty pleasure. Like that's still, I feel like that taboo or that stigma around sex work or even just around sexual pleasure, like that still kind of exists in our culture, right?
Yes, of course.
So that it originally came up around that time, that totally makes sense. But that also, like, the meaning around that evolved, and then it became more associated with activities judged by social norms or even self-imposed rules. That's what we were just talking about, right? The social norm of being in your underwear when company comes over. Shouldn't really be doing that. But also, like, is that really that big of a deal? And let me just go put some pants on, whatever it is, right? So smaller things like that. And then, so this article continues, said by the 90s, this term described enjoying something that one might feel shame or embarrassment about, like you just talked about, like consuming certain media or engaging in particular behaviors. So this term is like, it's been around for a long time. It's described lots of different things, lots of different categories of things. And now these days, I feel like there's a little bit of like performance to the idea of I feel guilty for liking this thing, right? We're not maybe really ashamed. Would you agree?
Oh,
Not
for
really
sure.
Ashamed. Yeah.
I mean, to me, the internet changed everything. I think the internet opened a door for people to connect with other people who had like interests. And so with that comes, I think, this community that you build, which then I think makes you feel less apologetic about the things that, you know, are your guilty pleasures. And I think too, it's been like, I think in the culture we've evolved, right? In terms of, I think a lot of shows that are wildly popular, like reality TV. I think that one has been like a classic
That's a great
guilty
example.
pleasure trope. And I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, once upon a time, they were very few and far between. And now, I mean, it's so common every day. There's always something going on. So I think too, like money, I think, is made with a lot of guilty pleasures. And so that's changed advertising. That's changed, I think, the way that they approach it, because they're like, oh, this is going to get your attention because it's a guilty pleasure. And who doesn't like something that sounds like a little risky or dangerous or salacious?
Yeah. That's a great word. Salacious. Yeah. A little spicy, a little taboo, but not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying it kind of evolved, like the internet definitely helped. And I agree with you. I think the internet definitely helped with this. But so you're saying it evolved from like something that maybe we should feel shame about, like a shameful secret, to more of like a proud indulgence. Like I like this and I indulge in it. But look, so do these other 1,000 people in this group or whatever, like, right? Like I've found people that also enjoy the same thing. So why should I be ashamed? Right.
Right. Yeah. It's more like a silly quirk than a thing to like keep repressed deep inside of you.
It's my favorite topic, just being a recovering Catholic, talking about repression
and guilt. I mean, oh my gosh.
Guilt, and guilt. So much fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to bring it back around to that. So a lot of these terms, like a lot of times when we talk about a guilty pleasure, like we're not really doing anything bad, right? We're not really like, it's really just, it's something that is maybe indulgent, maybe something that if we spent too much time on it, it could get bad. But the fact that I'm, still watching reality television on the weekends when I have nothing else to do, like, is that really that terrible? At the end of the day, not so much, right? Yeah, that totally makes sense. All right. So what are some, like, maybe some common guilty pleasures? I know we're talking a little bit about, like, sensual indulgences or things like media consumption or things like that, but like, what else is out there? What are some other examples?
I think like, I mean, media is a big part of it. Sometimes, like, for example, another one that was like a major at one point guilty pleasure, which now I'm very proud of, is huge Spice Girls fan. When in 1996, 97, being a boy who's like 12, 13 years old, who's like liking the Spice Girls, luckily I had a lot of really great supportive people around me. But like in the wrong hands, I should have been bullied. And not should have been, but like it seemed like it would be a much more likely scenario if I was in a different community. And so I think, and you think about, like, they're loud, they're outrageous, they are colorful, and it's a spectacle, and also just pop music in general. For a long time, I think people were like, oh, it's just selling out. It's not cool like rock and roll or, soul. Like, it doesn't have like substance, but I mean, it's called popular music because it's popular. So it's
that's where the term pop comes from.
Right. Yeah. And so I think it is about like taking that back, but then also trying to think other things like, fast food, I think, is a guilty pleasure. I think dessert is always a guilty pleasure. I mean, I think enjoying things that are erotic is also like a guilty pleasure. And part of that, I think, is because of how puritanical our country is.
Our roots are in this country, for sure.
Yeah. We're like, oh, sex. Oh my God. Even though like that's how we all got here. Like, if that didn't happen, well, okay, take that back. Outside of modern medicine that has allowed for, insemination and all that good stuff, sex has been involved. But then again, you know what? Never mind. I'm going too far. I was going to say something. And I was like, I don't need to be that explicit.
Did you want to turn this into an episode about sex? Is that where you're going?
I'm always down to talk about sex, but no, I will. Yeah. We'll hold that for another time.
No, I mean that's one of my favorite ones is when there's unexpected but also explicit nudity in a show or a movie that I'm watching, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's a human body. They have all of the things instead of what the cameraman chose to pan over or around, or what they decided to cover up or obscure or clothe or what. I'm like, actually, yeah, look at that. Like, that's amazing. That's definitely one of mine as well. One that I see a lot right now in media is I think you've even used this word, rotting.
Oh, I'm a frequent rotter.
like staying in bed or like staying on the couch, like on a day off when you have nothing else to do, right? When you don't have any other responsibilities, when you don't need to adult, like we talked about last time. It's just really just lounging around and enjoying rest. Like, is that terrible? But we've attached the word rotting, like we're decaying. It's so such an awful connotation. It is, but it's
like so gross, but it's also hilarious.
But to me, it really illustrates like how, like, I don't know if we're supposed to, or like what the sort of general ethos is around indulging in something like that, indulging in rest, right? In our end stage capitalist culture, I won't go down that road. That's we're supposed to be productive all the time, or whatever, right? Whatever that sort of underlying message is that you're not supposed to be lying on the couch for 8 hours. You're supposed to be doing something for yourself or for your family or with your life or whatever, right? All of those things. And so we're not resting, we're rotting. I'm like, man, do we really have to call it that?
Well, yeah, I think we are afraid as a society, talking again about pleasure. I think we're afraid to allow ourselves to experience and revel in pleasure. Mm-hmm. Like another one that came to me as we were talking in terms of guilty pleasures, video games. I think that, like, while there's a huge, obviously it's a gigantic industry, there is still a stigma that can happen. And sometimes it's warranted. Some people, it's like their entire identity. And that is where I think, we'll get into that a little bit later in terms of excess. But, we all want to just like escape sometimes. And I think that's part of what guilty pleasures do, whether it's like escaping into a delicious flavor, escaping into a really silly show, escaping into an amazing song, or, feeling anything that just makes you feel, I think is, what a gift, and what a sad thing for us to, I think, feel guilty about. But I think that's why we're here, though. That's part of what I think our podcast is about, is like, let's talk about these things and then like encourage it, but then also talk around all the things that make it maybe complicated for some people to embrace.
Yeah, to me, there's a pretty good overlap in the Venn diagram of being an adult and indulging. I mean, not only do we have the ability and a lot of times the resources and even the time to indulge, but then also, we're tasked with all of these sort of adult responsibilities and expectations that we put on ourselves, or our friends and family put on us, or society puts on us. But then also we have access to all of this other stuff, and we have the ability to enjoy it. So like, where are we taking the bite out of life? For me, that's what it is, right? Like, that to me is really enjoying life, literally stopping and smelling the flowers, literally just resting all day if that's what you need to do, literally just having that extra helping of ice cream or whatever it is, because like you really want that pleasure in your life right now. I like that.
Yes. Well, and especially too we are living in a dumpster fire of a time.
No, and everything's fine, John. Everything's fine.
Never mind. Everything's fine. I love everything. America.
I'm adjusting my chair, by the way.
He's leaving. He's getting ready to salute the flag.
Yeah.
He's a proud American, damn it. No, I mean, like, I think that's another reason why maybe that's also changed is we are living in a time where it feels like if I don't find something to ease my mind, to relax, to enjoy, I will lose my shit. I will lose my mind. And
so it's coping.
Absolutely.
Part of it, right?
Which also is kind of sad though when you think about it, that it's turned into a coping skill when it was just a pleasure. And maybe that's, that's a rough terrain, but also I think it says a lot.
Yeah, without, getting too deep commentary on the culture, like it really does say, like, why does a day of rest have to include guilt?
Yeah.
We need that. That's essential. Rest is essential. I tell my clients this all the time. You don't have to feel bad for taking a break.
Right.
I have people tell me they'll work 10, 11, 12 hours in the day and not take a lunch.
Yeah,
they'll do like a working lunch or something along those lines. And I'm like, you understand you're not a robot, right? You understand that even robots need fuel and oil and things to make them go. So do you. You need food and you need water. Whatever, all the things, right? You can always say those things so many times. But I feel like that's kind of like where we get stuck, is in that productivity mindset or in those expectations that kind of get set for us. So I guess, so maybe we talk about that. Maybe we can talk about like what some of those expectations are, those like where that comes from, where that kind of like that guilt gets placed. So society, right? That's definitely one of them.
Patriarchy.
Well, okay, sure.
I mean, it all comes back to the patriarchy, y'all.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry if you weren't wanting a political podcast. I'm a political person. It's gonna happen. But like, I mean, everything comes back to power and people in dominance wanting to retain that dominance. And part of that means saving face, keeping an image, and doing things that somebody once upon a time said these are the way that things should be. And now we are in a major moment of deconstruction in our society. And that is, to me, phenomenal. I don't know about you, Jason, but like when people are like, what other time would you like decide to live in? If you could live in any time in history, what time, what decade, what century would you choose? I'm not choosing any other century. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm a gay man, dude. Like, and I would not be like, hey, yeah, let's go out and, do some stuff. I don't know. Like, apparently that's what they did back in the day. But like, I just think like, I like my modern conveniences. I like my electricity. I like all the things that come with it. Now, do I like the world altogether? Not all the time. But I think that that's such a big piece of it is, thank goodness we live in a world where people are allowing or fighting for the ability to talk about these things so that it doesn't feel like something to feel guilty about.
Yeah. By the way, for everybody listening and watching, this is Fiery Sean. He has shown up in the podcast today. Sean is his special brand of fire.
The difference.
I know you don't, but all of your close friends and people who love you do.
Oh God, I guess I'm gonna have to watch this back and be like,
nope, it's great. It's great. This is one of my favorite versions of Sean is Fiery Sean. So
like
I appreciate that.
Is Fiery Sean one of your guilty pleasures?
Maybe I've learned to appreciate Fiery Sean. I was maybe a lot originally when I first met you, but now I really do appreciate. I've told you before, I love how much you love things, and that includes when you don't love things. Like you get fired up. It's really great. This is not a dig in any way, shape, or form.
No. I appreciate
your passion itself. Yeah, totally. So yes, so politics, the patriarchy, societal expectations, fuck yes, all of that can be problematic and make us feel guilty when we shouldn't be feeling guilty. What else? What else is out there?
Religion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Let's keep going.
What am I going to say?
You're 100% right. No, beliefs, value systems that exist, right? Structures, societal, religious structures. You're 100% right. There's implicit or inherent values in some of those structures. They say we need to behave this way. We need to only do these things.
Be homogenous.
We need to conform. We need to live our life this one way.
That's the grossest word ever.
But there's so many. There's a million and one things outside of that one homogenous path of life that then are not hurting anybody, but are also kind of fun to engage in. Like, why shouldn't I? Oh, no, I have to stay. So then you're right. We start to feel a little bit guilty straying outside the line. So yeah, so definitely religious structures. I know for me, one of the big ones that I get trapped is, or I get kind of like my head caught up in, is fitness culture. Like I can subscribe to it if I'm not aware. Like I can do that, right? Like I know I feel great and I operate my best and I'm like my best self when I'm active. And then also when I'm not active, I can sit on the couch and beat myself up. And I'm like, what am I beating myself up for? I need rest sometimes. I don't need to be in the gym 7 days a week. That's just not fair to my body. Why do I have that expectation?
It's not healthy.
Right. And it's not healthy. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So definitely like stuff like that, like fitness culture, health and fitness narratives. What else?
Which I think that's a good one I definitely think that's important to talk about because going to the gym is something that is so like celebrated and championed. I do think that it is really, I think it is important, that whole conversation around creating a dialogue around how often you work out, how long you work out, what is a good workout, even if it's just moving your body. Like I think there is that pressure of perfectionism, which again doesn't exist, and we have to like, I don't know, give ourselves that permission to know that it, like, if I take a rest day, it's not going to erase all my progress. In fact, it'll probably actually improve it. If you're
it does
following
a
system.
That's that's what most like trainers or like gurus in fitness culture will tell you, is that if you're not resting, then you're not optimizing your own performance. So you actually do need to do that to actually, but yeah, that can be a whole other podcast, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like at the root of what you're talking about though is like this idea of a hustle culture. And we kind of alluded to it already, right? The productivity piece and the capitalism and all that kind of stuff. But like that, underneath that is really like the expectation that I need to be doing, going, competing, earning, getting mine,
hustling for our worth.
For our worth.
Oof. That's a Brenéism. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
I had to make sure we included her today.
It would not be our podcast if we did not shout out Brené Brown. Hustling for our worth. Is that the phrase? Hustling for our worth?
Yes. Hustling for our worth.
Wow. Yeah. I don't want to subscribe to that. I don't want to feel guilty for not.
Hustle culture is like they make it look fun in TV shows and movies because it's a montage that lasts 30 seconds.
Exactly.
When you are actually doing that, it feels like you have no life. And without, a real life, you don't get pleasure, and then you don't get guilty pleasure. So it's a crapshoot. And that's what so much of this is about, is I think removing stigma and kind of saying fuck off to anything or anyone that makes us feel bad for things that don't hurt anyone.
I think that might be a great way to like drill it down. If it's really not harming anyone and you enjoy it, why not find pleasure in it? Yes. And then also, why not dismiss the guilt that's associated with it?
Right.
Why not?
Yeah. Like drag queens doing drag shows, that's not hurting anybody. But there's a lot of people that find pleasure in going.
But the children, Sean.
All of the children that are just lining the door waiting to get into that club at 10 o'clock at night. The children aren't going to be alive in 20 years because of how we're taking care of our planet. So they might as well see.
Oh, that's dark. Wow. Dark Sean has entered the chat.
He's always here.
He's always here.
I just keep him.
He's on mute sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my other guilty pleasure is like, how dark can we go? But like, seriously though, I do. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going to go with that. So it's all
good. That's okay. I was going to jump on top of it, but no, it's all good. Yeah. So hustle culture can kill the joy. But yeah, circling back around, like if it doesn't harm anyone, like why are we feeling guilty about it? So like, can we really just stay aware of like, am I actually feel guilty or ashamed or embarrassed about enjoying this thing? And if I do, is that necessary? And can I put it aside? Right. Yeah. And then also, can I stop performing? Like, or can I just start owning? Is really, I think that's part of it too. So. Hey there, podcast friends. This episode is brought to you by the Bentonville Counseling Collective, where growth, healing, and connection are more than just buzzwords. They're how we do life. Whether you're navigating big changes, working through past trauma, supporting your child through play therapy, or looking for LGBTQ plus affirming care, the Bentonville Counseling Collective offers a welcoming space to do the work with therapists who genuinely get it.
And if you're local to Northwest Arkansas, come meet us in person at our Community Wellness Fair and Open House, Friday, June 20th from 2 to 6 p.m. We'll have games, prizes, snacks, art, and a variety of local organizations you can learn from and connect with. It's free, it's fun, and it's for everyone. Learn more at BentonvilleCounseling.com or follow us on Instagram at Bentonville Counseling. Now, back to our episode.
Let's do, how about your secret question for the day? You got one?
I will say one? I have struggled so badly to come up with a question for you.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with the one that like, because this is actually coming out of my own curiosity.
Yeah, good.
Do you, Jason LeCompte, actually ever feel guilty about your pleasures?
Huh.
And the reason I want to just, for those listening, watching, Jason has this, he's a Libra. He's a balanced guy. Balance is all about his shit. And shit is all about his balance. And so I've never met somebody who really does work as hard as they play. And doesn't, I don't feel you apologize for either side of that coin. So that's why when we were talking about this, I'm like, I don't know if Jason currently has any. And if so, maybe that's also the other thing is if you can't think of any current guilty pleasures, then are there any in the past that you were like, really like, I got to keep this on lock because if I let a lot of people know this or anybody know this, I might, be treated like, crap.
Gosh. I think maybe something, which is, the first thing that comes to mind is, I think I used to, and this maybe goes back to our discussion on values and like feeling authentic, right? I don't know that 10 years ago, maybe I wouldn't necessarily talked about it in this way, but I really, really enjoy like indie films and foreign films. And I feel like that to like maybe the average person, I don't know, I'm making an assumption here, but like, I feel like that sounds pretentious. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to come off as pretentious. I don't feel like I am. Like I want to be relatable. I have very blue collar roots. Like
so highbrow guilty pleasures. That's like a whole other brand.
You're right. Yeah, I didn't even really think of it that way.
Me neither.
It's not even. I don't know. To me, it's not even necessarily highbrow. It's just like a different genre of cinema of media that I enjoy consuming because there's usually just there's different techniques that are used, or there's different storylines, or there's obviously different actors, different languages. I love listening to different languages, and so I really, really do. And I have like from the 90s forward, like I've always loved indie films and foreign films just because they're just different. They're outside the box. But I don't tell everybody that. Like I got to have some level of trust because then I feel like if I'm just be like, oh, I really like indie films, they're going to be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I don't want to be that guy. Right. So that's a good one. A good question. Like maybe that would be my answer. I think to that one would be, I just don't want to come off as pretentious. So that's the
That's a
part that I
great, no,
feel
I think it's a really important
shame
thing to
about.
address.
Yeah.
Like why we feel the guilt. It isn't
Yeah.
just all of the evil overlords of society that I've mentioned. It
Yeah.
also can be partly our fears of how we are perceived.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as is fair, what about for you?
I can honestly say I'm at an age where I really don't have any guilt about my pleasures. Because I think I've gone to a point where I've realized everyone is kind of making it up as they go in life. And why
Did you
am I
get that
gonna?
book in the mail when you turned 40? Did you get that book? Everyone's
I
making.
wish. I'm waiting for that goddamn book.
That's the book. It arrives when you're in your 40s. It's that everyone's
Well,
making it up
okay.
as they go
Well,
along.
it's
Yeah.
lost at the moment, but
Okay. Well,
I'm
yeah.
feeling it telepathically somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just think that when you get to a certain point in your life, and I know I have a lot to learn and a lot to hopefully lucky enough, if I'm lucky enough to live, is that there is just so many factors. We don't know the stories behind so many things. And if I'm going to get paralyzed for liking something and someone has a problem with that, that's their problem. And
that's my favorite thing that I think I've learned in middle age.
Yeah.
Is that if you don't like me for the things that I like, then you're not my people and you can go away.
Absolutely. I say all the time, don't choose people who don't choose you back. Because, and that's not just saying like it has to be, super specific, but I mean in the broader sense of if someone says, the way you do that doesn't work for me, then, they're not your person. Or if it is an area where you want to grow or evolve, then you will naturally or organically. But in general, life is a bitch. And I'm going to revel and roll around and rot in hell with my guilty pleasures.
If you take nothing else away from this episode, everyone, it's that life is a bitch.
And as they say, the only inevitable is you have to pay your taxes.
Right. And right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, if on it, like, I know we're joking, but if that's true, then you absolutely should be enjoying the things that you enjoy and seriously screw everybody else who doesn't like it.
Because I also then feel bad for those people, bad in the pity way.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, you are so closed off to opening your mind and experimenting with things that maybe aren't familiar or status quo. Like you're all about staying in the lines. Wow, how boring.
You know what? I will say in defense of that, it does work for some people. I know it doesn't work for me. I don't think it works for you, but it does work for some people. Like,
what do you mean?
Staying on like the script, the track, the normal, like working within that sort of narrow band, right? Some people feel safe. Some people feel structured, guided. Some people feel like, I don't know, they don't need to make all the decisions that maybe the rest of us would be exploring. And that really does work for some people. So that's all I'm arguing. I know it doesn't work for us. I'm just saying it does work for some people. I just don't want to throw everybody off the cliff with that one.
I don't want to throw everybody off the cliff, but I think if there are people I see, and I guess that's where we are going to disagree. I think everyone has the potential to have this like freak in them about something, but it's just about comfort, acceptance, and nurturing and fostering that kind of environment and community.
So you're saying, like, if they were to find other people who enjoy some of the things that they enjoy,
or if they were raised in that, or if they were lucky enough to go to college and they were exposure is such a big piece of this.
Sure.
And so, and I'm not saying, believe me, I get it. There's a whole range of freak. And so I agree. Like, I think there are some people that are much more, you know, as the phrase says, vanilla, which I love vanilla ice cream. So no hate on vanilla.
No, I do too. I like vanilla ice cream too.
But you know what? Like, some people are like, it's so boring. Anyway, neither here nor there. Is that it's, I'm definitely not yucking on anyone's yum who maybe likes something that's a little more straightforward. But like, if you have any sort of indulgences, you don't allow that for yourself, I have to imagine there's a party that is not activated inside, and that's like not living.
Oh, yeah, that stings.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people out there, especially in our Congress, who could really use a lot of self-exploration and contemplation and fun. And you know what? All right, never mind. I was just going to go on a whole
soapbox. I could see the soapbox coming. All right. Well, we can digress from that, right? Yes, you are. You have the fire today. It's great. I love it.
It's a beautiful day out, y'all.
It is.
I just want to say. So, like,
totally,
it gets me
where we
are.
Like, it's just a perfect, just perfect.
It's a beautiful spring day.
So, okay, let's do this. I guess I'm curious. Like, what would you nominate maybe as like your top 3 guilty pleasures? What can you just not live without? And we're not going to be guilty about it or ashamed. We're just going to really just own how much this brings us pleasure in our life.
Here's where
put him in the hot seat.
Here's the hot seat. Here's the hot seat part of it. This is the dilemma. Being a therapist is a really hard thing for everybody who's a therapist. I think that didn't make any sense. But what I'm basically saying is there is a sense of you want to protect the neutrality of people not knowing everything about you.
Sure.
And so like it's really hard for me because like I have my things that are very outward about me, but I also have things that like only my closest peeps know. Sure. And that's not out of shame. That's out of like as much as I am a loudmouth, I'm also very private about some things.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
well then what about your top 3 that you feel good about sharing, honestly? Like, because I don't want to be too revealing if we can't be.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, the number one that always comes to me, and I've said this, I think in the first episode, is I love Bravo shows. I'm a huge Bravo TV channel guy. It's one of my ways that I can truly just turn off my brain and just watch people with a lot of money or with really interesting circumstances do really weird things, but then sometimes surprise you and go, oh, that was a nice human moment. So like, you know, I get a lot out of it, and there's a huge community for it too. Like, I think that's another big piece of it is I like guilty pleasures that come with community, because I love sharing in the things that excite me and with other people who are also excited about them. So that Bravo's a big one. How about, can we like go back and forth?
Oh yeah, maybe? Sure.
Like,
sure,
so
sure,
yeah,
sure.
what's one of yours?
Yeah. So this kind of harkens back to one of the ones that I, don't tell everyone, but it's oftentimes a theme of some indie films or foreign films. It's queer coming of age stories. There was something really formative in the late 90s about me exploring my sexuality and not getting to live a lot of the stories that you'll see in some of the films like that. And so it really just sort of like nurtures like that teenage part of myself that didn't get to have a boyfriend or date in high school or things like that. Like, so, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be foreign, right? But like just queer coming of age stories and movies and stuff like that. Like those really speak to me, and I'll indulge in them like all weekend if you let me, right? If I've got like a string of them, or some that I haven't seen or whatever, like those are some of my favorites.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those those are excellent. Especially, I mean, thankfully we're living in a time where there's increasingly more and more content like that for people who are coming of age to have.
I mean, Heartstopper. We both love Heartstopper. Yeah.
So sweet.
So great.
Yeah. So like, thank goodness. Again, and that's also part of what I think that's what streaming and also the internet has allowed is for more people to go, oh, there's a lot of people who like this thing that maybe seemed like a niche topic, but actually there's a huge audience for it.
Well, and it's not gonna get universal support either. Like a lot of those stories, right? There's gonna be a lot of haters around that kind of stuff. A lot of people that say you shouldn't be doing that, or you're grooming young people, or all that sort of bullshit. And I'm like, well, that's not accurate, first of all, and secondly, like it's not hurting anybody. So shut up. Shut up. I like it.
So this is a really random guilty pleasure. It's again, like, because it's the guilt part is more like it just a part of the phrase. Is I have I just laugh because I'm just like, I just think when I say things, I'm like, I think about what other people hear when I say things. And I just think if I heard whatever, I just, I experience the whole experience. I am a big nerd for opening credits on television shows.
Shut up. Really?
Huge. I love when a show changes things season to season. I love like noticing little nuances and what they've done. Like I will Survivor. This is a great example. I love Survivor. I watched the first couple seasons when I was a kid, fell out of it. And then I had some friends that I worked with who were really into it, got back into it. And one of the big things that the Survivor community was crazy about is that they took away the opening credits, which had the like classic, like, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, like that whole tribal music. And, they had the hero shots where they showed the person like jumping in midair and they have sand on their face and their, it's all very dramatic. Well, they brought those back a couple years ago and everybody freaked the fuck out, including me. So every season of Survivor that's come out, I will rewatch the opening credits, and I don't like fast forwarding through opening credits that I love.
Wow.
I'm that guy that when it says skip now, unless I've seen the show a million times, I want to see the opening credit. I like to I appreciate, like, especially now doing this podcast, I'm doing so much more editing that I'm like, wow, the editing that went into that to make that flow the way it did. And even in old TV shows, like, I mean, Friends is another one. They would do it twice a year. They would change their opening credits. Like, this is a thing. I nerd out about it. It just, like it's got a long history. I could go on forever. It's really weird.
And I can imagine, like, if you watched TV like with people regularly and you were the only one in the room, like you might be made to feel bad about that.
Oh yeah, when I'm around a lot of people, unless they are like people that like they are people that I don't care to put in an imposition, I will be like, okay, yeah, we don't have to watch that. I'll just watch it later. Like I'll check it out later. But that's also what makes me sad. I hate that so many shows now, they just have, the bumper with the name of the show and then it goes into the show. And like, I'm like, God, like theme songs, man, like theme songs were so great back in the day. And now funny. You just get like a show. Like,
I was just telling my husband this the other day, like, I think I looked at him during a show that we were watching and I said, who in the hell watches the opening credits? Oh, now I feel bad for it. But like literally I skip. I'm the skip guy. I'm like, nope. See, I might, if it's a new show and it's the first time, I might just, I don't know if it's out of respect for the industry or the creators or maybe it's just curiosity, but like I will literally, like I will watch first episode the first time through.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm like, I don't care. I've seen it. It's over. Like I'm just wasting 30 seconds of my life.
And see, that's the thing. Speaking of highbrow, you want to talk about good opening credits? HBO.
I was saying, we're going to go to White Lotus.
White Lotus. What's another?
You're a Hacks fan. I know.
Sex in the City.
Sex in the City
doesn't have opening credits.
Oh, okay.
Which it's technically HBO Max.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But like a True Blood, like Game of Thrones, like every season they change the map. Like how fucking brilliant.
I'll make that an exception. I did watch season to season. I did watch the opening credits of Game of Thrones because it was interesting.
The season it changed. Like
it would show you like this is where we're going to be, and we're going to be over here this time,
and also things that evolved in the story. Like it was so creative, and the use of music and imagery, and another Yellow Jackets, amazing opening credits. Like it's intense, it's raw, it's weird, it's so good.
Okay.
So anyway,
all right, so that's one. Yeah, no, that's great.
You're like, that's one that took 13 minutes.
That's great. That was a great guilty pleasure. Is that
it's a weird pleasure? I think that's part of it. Is like you kind of feel a little weird about it. Again, that's why I'm saying embarrassed, ish, like embarrassed light, like silly embarrassed.
Sure. Yeah.
What's another one for you?
I enjoy, and I feel like it stands out as maybe a guilty pleasure because I'm an adult and I get this feedback from, I mean, not to throw my husband under the bus. He doesn't particularly appreciate adult animation.
Oh.
He calls it cartoons, and then I'm watching cartoons, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm watching cartoons. I fucking love cartoons. Like some of the adult animation that's out there now is awesome. Like it is so awesome.
It's stunning.
Not just the animation, but the writing and the direction, and then like the depth of storytelling that's happening in some modern animation. Like I'm all about it. And yes, it does remind me of being that kid in his underwear on Saturday morning with a bowl of cereal watching cartoons. Of course it does. But also like, this is great. And this is very adult. And this is not like watching the Care Bears in 1984. Like it's something way different. Right.
It's so true.
So yeah. So adult animation, probably like, I'm sure there's other attitudes out there, right, about that, but I think that's definitely one of them. You got one more?
Yeah, my last one is I love a really great superhero film. Like I love anything that's like a well done action film. I can, especially if it's like I definitely grew up and a little bit of DC, but mostly a Marvel Comics kid. And X-Men was like my
guilty pleasure. I feel like this is almost a universal pleasure.
Comic book? Are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, yes, no, you're right. These movies, but you have to remember, we in 2025, like big Marvel movies are everywhere. But like when like the original X-Men movie came out in 2000, like that was a really big deal. And then the first Spider-Man movie came out, I think, the year after that. And that's really the first one that got things kind of going. And then eventually Iron Man, and that led to the whole thing unraveling. So, yeah, I think for a long time, it was looked upon as like, oh my gosh, you're watching these people with these silly outfits, fighting each other. But like, if they're really good actors, if the effects are good, if the story is right, the chemistry is good, the production value. I'm definitely not just like willy-nilly like everything, but I love a great intense action film that really just like makes you, because like again, I think that's what part of it, that's the opposite of what you were talking about. I think sometimes people think that's too lowbrow, and so then you feel kind of like, oh, if I mention this, people are going to think like, wow, that's his level. Like, I know I feel bad. Not really. I feel feelings about like, there are certain shows when I hear someone has watched a show or loves a certain show, I'm like, oh, I don't think we're not compatible. Like, it's true.
Funny.
There's just certain shows where I'm like, that gets you going.
Ugh. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not going to say what they are because I don't want to alienate anybody.
No. Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, what about you? Do you have a third?
I'll give one more and then we can move forward. This one, I'll be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit spicy with this one. I have a backyard pool. I love my pool. It's a very private backyard.
Amazing.
And so I like to swim naked in my pool. There's something just really sensual and liberating and just joyful.
Who doesn't like to skinny dip?
I mean, really, but also it's something that I get to indulge in maybe more than the average person. And it's just one of my favorite things, honestly. So some people might
Fuck
say,
yeah.
oh, that's weird. Oh, that's gross. Oh, that's whatever. And I'm like, it's really not. It's just me and my pool, and I'm not hurting anybody. So I get to enjoy
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
No, if anything, I'm like, sounds like you are uptight and not a good time.
And maybe not a good time, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Have fun, wet
that's
blanket.
Funny. Well, so how do we know it's like? How do we know these are like? Do they get to be too much? Like if we overindulge, is that kind of like? I feel like that's implied in what we're talking about. But I mean, can you watch, Sean? I don't know if you can you watch too much Survivor? Like, is that even possible?
I mean, no, but like,
yeah,
but also okay, but like, true though. But here's the flip. There are parts. One thing that we didn't mention, which I will be human enough to say, is that pornography is something that can be overindulged, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's a lot of thoughts and feelings about that. And I agree. You can get, I mean, I think especially at certain ages, the exposure to that, how much you consume of that, too much, way too much. Like that can totally fuck up your mind and not give you a healthy sense of what like real sex and sexuality look like. And then also keep you from like, I think engaging in vulnerability in a real way. So like I feel like that's one, but also going back to what I mentioned earlier, video games. I think there are those gamers out there. I really remember that really like rising up when I was in college, where a lot of like my female friends would date dudes and they'd be like, I mean, all my boyfriend does is sit on his Xbox all day long and play a game, and he stays up all night and plays that game, and we don't go and do anything, and it wasn't like this when we started getting together, blah 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 blah. So again, I think absolutely, like video games, I think too much of anything can be too much. Too much is just too much.
You're talking to the Libra about that. So yeah. No, I agree. It's when it becomes out of balance, when other parts of your life suffer, like your relationships, or if you did choose to watch Survivor 24/7, that you wouldn't go to work.
Yeah.
And then that would be a problem, right?
When you begin neglecting your basic duties in life that you just have to do, responsibilities. Yeah. That. What about you? Are there any that you can think of?
Where overindulgence becomes a problem?
Overindulgence or imbalance, yeah.
I mean, probably almost any of them. If all I wanted to watch was adult animation, then I wouldn't be sharing any sort of TV watching time with my husband. We wouldn't be connecting around that kind of stuff. And that's one of our favorite things to do in the evenings, right? We just, for like an hour before bed, like we'll just watch TV, and it's connective because we could both enjoy the same thing that we're watching. But if all I wanted to watch was that, and I would be alienating him from that time in our day. So yeah, so that's just one way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, okay. So if it's not hurting anybody, if it's truly something that you enjoy and it's really not taking away from your life in any sort of negative way,
right?
How do we shake the guilt? How do we say, thanks for showing up, but no thanks, I don't need you right now?
I think part of that is what I think we're trying to do with our clients, which is if it really does bring you joy and people see how that makes you feel and they love you, they're going to want to keep seeing you look and be joyful. And so
I like that.
So
I want the people I care about to be happy and joyous about their life, right?
Absolutely. I can't remember what the is it Freudenfreude?
Schadenfreude.
Well, Schadenfreude is the bad one. The bad one. I think Freudenfreude is like you experience joy from other people experiencing joy.
Is it Liebenfreude? Neither of us speak German, obviously.
We're going to do a quick Google search.
Liebenfreude would be love pleasure, maybe? I don't know. I'm guessing. I literally have no background in German, so
Yes, Freude is a
oh, you were
German
right.
word that translates to joy of joy in English. It refers to the feeling of happiness and pleasure when witnessing someone else's success or joy. It's essentially the opposite of Schadenfreude, which is the joy derived from someone else's misfortune.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a word for this. I'm going to bring it back to counseling for a second. It's used a lot in the polyamory community, and it's compersion, and it's finding joy in your partner's joy.
Yeah.
And it's not with you. It's they're having joyous experiences outside, maybe dating or whatever, and you feel that feeling of joy. That's we talk about that as compersion. So yeah, Freudenfreude. Thank you, Germans, for always having an awesome
There's
combination of words to describe stuff. But also, yes, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so finding pleasure in someone else's pleasure. You're right. We can do that.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but like I you hear about it. I think this is especially close to us being gay men, is that when you see someone come out and living their authentic life, or they are starting to transition into whatever gender identity they are, then you see, oh my gosh, it's one of the most beautiful things as a therapist when I work with a client and I see them in that transition and their world is opening up in front of them, and they just look like it's like they're breathing for the first time. And it's so wonderful. So that's where, like, when I think about people who are so scared or afraid of looking at those factors, they're missing out on what a true honor it is to witness that in another person. And so if you can do that with somebody else's guilty pleasure, then it really is like another way that somebody is saying, this is something about me that I love, and I don't mind showing you that. And how awesome.
It's that fully authentic self we're talking about, right? Showing up in the way that
because that's really what guilty pleasures are. That's authenticity. You're saying, I don't care how this looks. I authentically love this.
How did I not make that connection before this moment?
I mean,
you're right.
Honestly, I don't know the words that come out of my mouth. So
this is part of Sean's brilliance, everyone. This is how
1 minute he's cursing out the patriarchy, the next minute he's dropping wisdom. Like
emotional pollution and guilty pleasures equal authenticity, and that's pretty awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. So you're saying just show up, be authentic, like claim it, like really just be like, I like this, and I don't care if you don't. Like I'm going to be joyful about it.
And pay attention to the people that don't celebrate that in you, and pay attention to the people that do. Yeah. Because I think when you start spending time around other people that embrace their own pleasures and joys and identity, you then also want to do that too, because you see how free that is.
It's contagious, right?
It is so contagious.
It's totally. Yeah.
And that is freedom. That's great.
I think some of this too, and I can probably remember this as a lesson myself. But I think not taking ourselves so seriously, that can be honestly a way to chuck some of that guilt. Like, so what if I like adult animation? Like, in the grand scheme of things, is that really like something I should be ashamed about or feel guilt about? Like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, that's a ridiculous thing to like take seriously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just like when you were saying that, I was like, even going back to what I was talking about, where I'm like, there are certain TV shows where if somebody says they love that TV show, I may not think that that's cool, but if that like gets you happy, like, you know what? Good for you. Like, that's great. Like, everyone should love what they love as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. That is just, I feel at the end of the day, if nobody's getting hurt, live and let live.
Yeah.
It's an amazing concept.
I like that. Probably one more, and then we'll do shout outs. Does that sound good?
Shout out.
Yes. We'll do shout outs. Yeah. One more way I think we can maybe just like normalize this is coming back to that idea of wellness, and that we need this. We need to enjoy it. Like, we're not automatons. We weren't born to plug into a factory and work our lives away, right? It's normalizing pleasure and rest and enjoyment as a part of a healthy, balanced life. to me, that helps us go, should I feel? No, I don't need to feel, like, really helps us kind of like be introspective and make the choice to enjoy ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Life is a lot more livable when you can do that.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Cool. All right. It's our favorite time. We like to do shout out. We like to do
Miller
shout outs.
time.
It's not Miller time. It's shout out time.
Somewhere it's Miller time.
So just for anybody who doesn't know this, so we actually started doing shout outs as part of like our weekly / monthly meeting, our regular sort of staff meeting that we do at our collective. And we really like it. We really like that we can inject a little bit of joy and maybe a little bit of silliness, but also really gratitude for the fun and pleasurable things in our life. And so that's the whole reason behind shout outs. So Sean, you got shout outs this week? What do you got?
Always. Yeah. Also, just an aside is I think like the other part of us sharing our shout outs is like we encourage you guys out there listening, think about your own shout outs. Who are the people and things in your life that you would shout out right now? And if so, like if you can text them, call them, say it to them, talk about it. Anyway, that's one reason I love shout outs. So my shout out today is a very special one. So it's actually kind of shocking that it's taken me till episode 4 to talk about Taylor Swift.
Wow. You're right, actually. That is kind of shocking.
It really is. I love Taylor Allison Swift. She's a fucking phenomenon and incredible. Anyway, beyond just her existence, that could always be my shout out. Today, she announced that she officially bought back her original work, her first 6 albums, all of her concert films, all the artwork, media, everything. She was able to buy it back without any strings attached. And now she owns all of her work. And it is, to be someone that has followed her journey and to know how much throughout her music she sang and talked about how truly heartbreaking and devastating it was for her to not have her work in her own hands. So for her now to reclaim it and to do whatever she wants, like it's like it gives us permission as fans to love the original work again in a way that maybe we felt like, no, we only need to support the new Taylor versions for basically. Also, just quick aside, if you don't know this, if you live kind of under a rock, Taylor Swift wanted to buy her first original 6 albums. Her record company said, you know what, we will give you an album for every new album that you record. And she's like, no, I've done all this stuff for you. I want them outright. And they sold them to somebody else without her getting an opportunity to. Sorry, my light just fell. It just fell. It went whoop. But now I have like a nice little glow. So anyway, she, it was a devastating thing. She's now re-recorded 4 of her 6 original albums and has created Taylor's versions, which are basically re-recordings of them plus vault tracks and other bonuses. So to now know that she has all that back under her and within her control, I mean, and also she talked about, she wrote a letter and she talked about how other artists have gone up to her and said, because of you, I've made sure to negotiate in my contract that I get the masters of all of my work on the front end. And I think that that's so important, like to think about not being able to own your hard work, your blood, sweat, and tears. That's just like devastating to think about, especially with somebody as prolific as her. So I'm here to celebrate Taylor Swift buying back her work. And, I'm so happy and excited for her.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah. So I think my shout out, just because it's so present for me today, is honestly just springtime. I mean, we're lucky in North Arkansas to have an earlier weather change. It starts to happen in somewhere around March. But it's been truly beautiful And it's a whole weekend of truly beautiful. And I get to spend some of it in my pool tomorrow, and I get to spend some of it on Sunday golfing, which is one of my favorite things. And so I'm really, really just super psyched that the weather's changing and fantastic. It's got me in a great mood. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. To piggyback on that, we usually, at least since I've been here, spring has been an incredibly short season.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that we're almost in June and we're having a really, really like perfect, mild, regular, like it feels like I'm in the 90s or something. It's like
we
weather,
haven't
like
had 30 years of climate change.
Yeah, no climate crisis right now, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I co-sign that big time. It's so great.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, I feel like that was a pretty solid conversation around guilty pleasures. What do you think?
I think so too. And I really hope that, anybody at home, if you are, or home, wherever you're listening to this podcast,
wherever,
please, share in our comments, like your own guilty pleasures. Make sure and talk about maybe if there's a struggle you have with that. I would love to see the dialogue around guilty pleasures and how
and maybe how you've overcome that. It's something that you do regularly engage in. That'd be something interesting to hear about too. It's just something we can continue to share. So
absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Sean. Always fun.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Great to talk to you about stuff.
So
yeah, we will just remind everybody to pause, take a breath, and
collect your thoughts.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.